Hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the It's Not Just You podcast with Soph, Rach, and
Josh.
Hey!
Another four-letter name. It works.
Guys, you've got a male voice on here today.
Come on.
Come on,
Speak.
let's hear your voice again.
Hello.
Speak, man.
Hello
Speak.
there. Hi, everyone.
Guys,
We've pulled out all the stops to get him here.
we've flown in an extraordinaire,
Yeah.
a podcast,
Big budget
big
to
name.
get him
Yeah.
here today. Travelled many miles all the way from his bedroom across the hall.
Next door.
Josh
Yeah.
Wilson.
Guys, it's my brother.
Yeah. A lot of
Yes.
people, I guess, to me, saying Josh Wilson implies you're Rachel.
Yeah,
Wilson's
they don't
brother,
know
but a
my
lot of people
last name.
wouldn't know your last name. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's just clear that up,
This
Yeah.
is my brother, everyone. My younger brother, my only sibling.
just to really
20
Drive
younger.
it home.
22 years old.
Yes.
I'm 24. Just
Okay.
FYI.
Thank you.
Just FYI, I'm
Josh
2
likes
years
to
older.
act like he's 7 years older than he is, but he's not really. He's 22.
22. Okay. Well, I just thought I've got to make the most of having you here on the podcast, and
Yeah.
you know, you may have some info, some intel on Rach That-
Ooh.
the listeners wouldn't know. I might not even know.
Yeah.
So I thought you could just share.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe like
Brilliant.
an embarrassing story.
Yay.
What an opportunity.
Yeah.
Give the people what they want.
Exactly.
Um,
This is the clickbait. that
Yeah.
You can sell them.
where to start with Rachel growing up? Honestly, wow, lots of stories spring to mind. But I think the one I'm going to go for is called the Queen Spoon story.
And
As
what
if
is-
like you've written a novel
And
on
what
it.
is
Like
the Queen Spoon story?
So, growing up, there was a spoon in our cutlery drawer, which was slightly different to the rest. It
It
was
sounds like some children's storybook or
Yeah.
something.
probably about 80% in size to the others. It was quite nicely embroidered.
What do you mean 80%
it was
inside?
slightly
the word is
smaller.
not embroidered. You don't embroider a spoon. That's sewing. It had
was
like
Alright.
it had like
Engraved.
it had kind of like a, you know, like
Like a
it's
I think it's over there.
no, yeah, we had it had a handle that was like almost encrusted, but not, but like
Defo not the right
Like-
words either.
it looked like a regal spoon, basically.
Yeah.
embossed.
Yeah. And obviously, it's just a spoon, but it became quite a big thing for Rachel and I, especially in our morning routine. So, essentially, your day was decided whether it was good or bad. Did you eat your Weetabix with the Queen Spoon?
Okay.
So, a lot on the line
Became
every
a
day.
competition.
It became a competition to the point that every morning, Rachel and I feel like we'd get up at the same time, like about 7
No,
a.m.
but
Yeah.
the point was we would get up earlier and earlier
Yeah.
and earlier to
But
try and
exactly.
beat each other
3
downstairs.
a.m.
Yeah. And then what we would do is
3
it's a
a.m.
bit weird when you really go into it, but
Well, not really. We're in primary school.
yeah, okay. Well, where our rooms were in our house, if you stood in a doorway, I could see into Rachel's
Mm.
doorway.
Is this not where your rooms are now?
No, it was in
No,
our old
no,
house.
old
They were
house.
opposite each other, basically.
Yeah, and essentially we, within kind of, I guess, the deceit of thinking that we should start earlier, did agree on the fact that we should make it visible to the other about how far through their morning routine they were. So we would get changed into our school uniform in our doorways, so we could see each other.
But
Like, and
when
how
I
much
say it would be
progress.
like shoving on our clothes, it'd be like putting your tight through
Yeah.
the leg, like
Yeah,
like
Like it'd be like
racing.
making eye contact whilst desperately buttoning your shirt
Like
up.
doing a tie.
Yeah, like really quickly. Because the rule was you're not allowed
Yeah.
to go down unless you're dressed in your school uniform. And then we would bolt downstairs and see who could get the spoon. And it would be
we're
war.
shoving each other out the
What
way.
were the stats? Like who was getting it more often?
I reckon I'm
Me.
winning. Rachel.
Mm.
Rachel Wilson. That is absolutely not true. I would.
50-50?
You know when you're
No.
like, this is so interesting because I'm quite a competitive person and like this gives a bit of insight. Like if that was going into my like
every day.
childhood brain of like win, I've got to win
Yeah.
the Queen Spoon like every morning.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
well,
not
there's winners
surprised.
and losers.
Yeah. Well, all I'm saying, guys, is I think we should bring it back. And I
Mm.
think stop that.
I don't know. I feel like, as you
'Cause
say,
we
with the
lived
age,
together.
it
Start
felt like
sprinting
it
every
was
morning
more
to
acceptable
use
Yeah,
then.
yeah, maybe.
Anyway, thanks for that story, Josh.
Yes.
And just one more question quickly before we dive into the topic. I just want to know, what is your kind of rogue? It's not just you, like a more of a silly, funny, like it's not just you who.
Yeah.
Light-hearted edition.
Yeah, lighthearted.
Well, I think it's quickly worth stating that obviously in our friends groups up in Birmingham. It's a common question of, if you went on the podcast, what would your It's Not Just You topic be?
Yeah.
Meaning I have had a long time to think about this. And there's quite a few in contention, but there's a clear winner. Other than the one we're doing today, there's a clear winner. And that is... That's a drum roll.
Drum roll, please.
It's not just you who has an irrational fear of bed bugs.
Oh
Thoughts?
my gosh. Well, I mean,
it is true.
I've had
like
quite
Josh
a few
does.
conversations with you about bed bugs.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, numerous conversations. Where's that stemmed from, just quickly?
Out of all the fears.
It's just really tough to do it quickly, but essentially, earlier this year there was a bit of an outbreak of bed bugs. So I think
In London.
Well, in
Not
London, but I
Birmingham.
know there was articles in Birmingham.
They jumped on that train.
They
and
jumped on that train. So I was...
They came up.
Well, it was in Paris originally. They were chucking, their mattresses off the balconies. And I was travelling with work and I went through Paris. Not that I got off the train or anything, but I remember some people did get on the train. And only about a day later, when all these articles started going around about bed bugs, I realised that I could have them. Did a bit of research myself. And honestly, the psychological effect of having bed bugs, I think, is far worse than people realise. I read an article, a friend shared with me an article which essentially said that after years of counselling, there's this family who haven't been able to remove the trauma of having bed bugs because they just, they're sometimes really hard to get rid of. And the second point is, which I think is an interesting question,
wow.
You're at night, you feel a little, bite in the back of your head or wherever, I don't know. You wake up and you go, oh, what's that? Check under your mattress, boom, bed bug. What do you do? Because I think that's a really...
sleep on the sofa.
Okay, but right, so you've got bed bugs in your bed, meaning they could be on your clothes. You're going to a party the next day.
Sleep naked on the sofa and then just...
Go to the party naked. Brilliant.
Yeah. I'll just go out, buy a new wardrobe. I'll go out naked.
Okay.
No, go out with the bed bug clothes.
Yeah.
Go to the shop, buy some new clothes, ditch the bed bug clothes, go out to the party.
Brilliant.
Sorted.
Okay, let's wrap that up there. Brilliant content. This is what happens when you invite your brother on the podcast.
Yeah, it's a good one though.
We've never discussed bed bugs, but there we go.
It's a fresh take. It's a male's perspective.
Mm.
We would never have thought to talk about that rate.
So true.
This is why we need more guys on the pod.
Amen.
If you are a guy and you listen to the podcast, do let us know. That's quite
You're in a niche.
Yeah, I wonder how many
A niche group.
guys do. Anyway,
You're in the minority.
so what is today's topic?
Well, I feel like Josh should say.
All right, Josh, go on then. Do you remember the title?
I've got it here. if
No,
if
I
need
do,
it,
I
if you need
do.
a reference.
I do. I've spent a lot of time thinking about it.
Have you?
Today's podcast title is It's Not Just You Who Struggles to Ask for Help.
You did that so well.
Well done. He got the right
I
tone
practiced
it
as
in
the
well.
mirror.
Yeah. That's exactly how we would do it.
Yeah.
You're learning.
Come on.
Okay, and this is just, I guess, as a kind of overview, this is what Josh wanted to speak about today.
Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting topic, especially having a male perspective as well.
Mm.
All that toxic masculinity floating around.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
We can dig into that. Maybe.
and obviously for women as well, we can all
Indeed.
struggle to ask for help. So
yes.
I'm excited.
Okay. So, first question we'll go with. Can you think of a time that you have struggled to ask for help? Like a time where you haven't asked and in hindsight you go, I probably should have asked for some help with that.
Yes, many. I think what really springs to mind for me is probably kind of school education growing up. So, and I think that's quite a obvious one to look back at because I guess people can often have very different kind of takes on schooling and doing your work at school and like for instance being able to ask for help from whether it be friends or whether it be family. And I definitely look back at my time at school and realise I never asked for help from, for instance, my parents. And looking back, it would have been a lot easier if I did. I think that's quite a jovial example, but like a good one kind of for everyone to look back at and think, maybe how they kind of act in that scenario.
Yeah.
I think getting older, obviously, it's maybe more with deeper things in life, whether it be, you're going through a rough time maybe mentally you're not doing great. And yeah, just like when there's probably times could have, you know, relied on my friends and so on and taken their counsel and wisdom, probably thought in the moment it was better just to kind of not
Go it alone.
Exactly.
Yeah, so even when you're talking about school, did you mean more like the actual work of school? Like, I should have gone to my teacher and said, I don't get it. Or was it more the things in your teenage years while you were at school that you were going through on a more personal level that you should have actually reached out to friends and chatted about, or parents or family or whoever?
It's a good question. I mean, it's both. I was pointing to the asking about education because I think it's obviously quite comparable with my lovely sister. We took very different routes during school, and not saying which one was right or wrong, but Rachel relied quite heavily on especially dads. I think with
Josh,
Rachel
this
says...
This isn't a family counselling session.
No, but my dad...
I'm the counsellor today.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to be mediating
Also,
this
Josh, it was just maths.
Well, I'm not sure. I think Dad probably has a few GCSEs, which he did when he was at school,
and
but
a degree?
also when he,
Yeah, to be fair.
and a geography
my
degree.
dissertation definitely did help me with.
Yeah, which is quite
and all my essays.
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly,
well, no,
anyway.
you'd read it through. Like, it's not like he literally wrote it.
I
Anyways,
think next week you should get Dad on. You can
Paul's
fact check that.
perspective.
I mean, like, yeah, he did help write parts, but it wasn't like anyway.
Yeah. Point being is it's quite a comparable example, whereas I kind of saw that, which I probably, you know, now I wouldn't maybe have this view, but probably in the moment perceived as weakness. Therefore, thought, you know what, I'm going to get my qualifications all by myself. So yeah, I use that as an example where it's quite obvious.
Wait, I'd just like to input. So I agree. I was probably more on the extreme end of asking for help. You're probably on the extreme end of not. And I reckon, Soph, maybe you sit somewhere in the middle of like, you might not have gone to your dad and got him to help write your diss. But
I didn't know.
So do you think the main difference between you two would be like, so for example, would you feel comfortable asking for help? You just wouldn't necessarily need it. Whereas Josh, are you more like, and I want to dig into this in a minute of why you didn't feel comfortable to ask for help. But
yeah, I don't need help.
Nice.
That's why I rarely ask for it.
Cool.
So good.
Thanks, Soph.
No. I think, do you know what? Okay, comparable to me and Rach, I think even doing stuff like Soph and Rach, again, I think a lot of it comes into personality types, and where I think you, Rach, even with stuff that we're doing, you would see other people that we know or who have expertise in what we're doing and go, why would I not ask them to help me when they could make it better?
Yeah.
And I guess where you've spoken before about, you know, the whole achiever thing and wanting things to be the best, you're thinking, I can pull in all these people and ask for their help to make it this best thing that it could be. I would say that in that case, I would more veer on the side of not asking for help, not because I'm like prideful necessarily or I just want to do it alone. I think it's more, it's because I'm not an achiever in that way.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking,
Like, you're just more chilled.
like,
really.
we could do it and it could be fine. Like, why do we need to go to so-and-so and it just longs the whole thing out, and we could just do it right now. So why do we need to go and ask 5 different people about how to do it when we could just do it? Do you know what I mean? So I think that for me is not so much in that instance about, I don't want to look weak or anything. It's more just, I think it's fine as it is, and I don't feel like I need all these other people to input. So I guess that's a little bit different, but that's something that came to mind for me. I can't think of what else you asked.
No, yeah, I was just saying, like, but then if there was an instance where you actually didn't know how to do something, would you feel comfortable to then ask for help where you need it?
Yeah, I think more often than not, yeah. But I'd actually say in the past few years, I've actually built up a bit of a perception of myself, which I don't know if is right or wrong, but I think sometimes I can feel a bit like people think I'm incompetent. And so that could be a factor in me not asking for help, because I don't want to appear like, Soph doesn't know what she's doing, and actually I keep having to help her, and she is, or even like lazy, like you're not trying hard enough, and so you've just come to me and ask. And I don't want to appear like I'm this incompetent, lazy person that just can't be bothered to try doing something on my own.
Okay, but what about not from a work perspective? Because I feel like also at the moment we're talking about work. What about if you were struggling mentally? Would that be the same thing, or?
No, I think I've gotten better at asking and reaching out to people if I'm struggling with like more personal things.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's been a journey of I've not always been like that.
Okay, so Josh, for you, why growing up now, whatever, why did you not want to ask for help?
Yeah, good question. I think so. Quite echoes what you're saying, Soph. I think is probably a desire to be self-sufficient. So just in most things, I would just want to be able to do them by myself. I think reasons for that probably tie into not wanting to feel like you're burdening someone.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're doing something that's on you and you're dealing with it, it feels like you should fix it. Which I'm not saying, for context, I definitely don't think is the right approach. I think at times it is. I also think, you know, in this, just even in this conversation, like it is really good to ask for help. There are also times where it's also, you know, good just to get the problem fixed by yourself. And it's getting that balance between the two, which I think is so important. And yeah, I sit on the side of not asking enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's definitely from not wanting to burden people. Sometimes it's the challenge, like, you know, say you're going through something and it's an amazing feeling, isn't it, when you solve something by yourself as well. I think that is like, again, that's a good thing. It's also an amazing feeling when you know, invite other people into that and get it fixed as well. Like it's not like one's better than the other. So yeah, I think the self-sufficiency thing is a big point, and wanting to feel like I'm fixing things rather than breaking things, or that I'm providing rather than burdening. Like, yeah, would be my answer to that.
Yeah. Do you think, because I was just thinking then about the different contexts where you might ask for help, and so say something that's more work related, it can often be, hey, I don't know how to do this task, can you help me finish it or achieve it, whatever, where it's more of like there's an end goal. Whereas sometimes I think when it's personal stuff or stuff in friendships or maybe stuff that you would go to family for, like you said, maybe if it's like you're struggling with your mental health or you're struggling with thoughts or whatever it is, where there's less of like a, hey, I want to get to this point, can you help me do it?
Yeah.
It can feel quite hard because, you know, if you feel a bit stuck in something, it's not going to be this linear journey out of it. And so bringing someone into that can almost feel a bit messy.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I don't really know actually what you can do or how you're going to help me get out of it. But, and that's, we were talking about this earlier, weren't we, about like the whole productive thing.
Yeah.
And it can feel kind of, oh, I don't know if this feels productive to just bring this person into all my thoughts and mess around the situation when I don't even know about how we're going to get out of it or what they would do to help me get out of it.
Yeah.
So it can feel like, oh, that doesn't feel like a productive thing to do, so why would I do it? I should just keep it to myself.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, I am an achiever, would be my Enneagram type. Not sure if have you spoken about those on here?
Not really.
Ooh.
Type 3 though, if you are.
Type 3.
Enneagrams,
look them up, really interesting.
I'm not a type 3, I'm a type 7.
Which is?
I think it's like the enthusiast or something.
Yes, you can see it clearly.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I'd say I'm output driven. So from a productivity point of view, you know, say there's a task, it's, well, how can we get this done? What's the strategic, logical approach to defining success in this? And yeah, as you say, with some of the relational things or potentially with your mental state, it can be really hard to define, well, yeah, like what's success here? Like what's the outcome we're looking after? Like how can I achieve in this? It's like, well, that's a difficult question to answer. I would definitely fall into a trap, I think, sometimes especially with you know, mental well-being and so on, where it's like, yeah, ultimately I'm the person who's most aware of how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And it would be a little bit of, it sounds not great to say, but it feels sometimes like a waste of time to try and explain to someone, you know, how you're doing, what you're going through, like how you're feeling, for them to not quite understand it. And then I think I just have a lack of kind of faith that they'd be able to essentially provide me with a solution that I hadn't thought of myself.
Yeah.
Which when I say it out loud is, to be honest, stupid. And it's also the fact that, well, you might be having a conversation with them and like opening up to them. It's not actually about what they say or what they give as a solution. It's the premise of doing that, and opening up to them and like just sharing your burden with them could be quite relieving to you. So I definitely think like you have to flip it for things which are maybe output driven and things which are more relational and so on.
So have you found that in terms of like, I guess almost reflecting a little bit or looking back on times where you've struggled to ask for help and then times where you have like, or like you say, maybe you've shared how you're feeling mentally. Have you done that and then felt like, oh, I'm glad I did that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so. And I think doing it more regularly builds kind of routine of essentially asking for help more, in my opinion, means it's easier to ask for help more. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Isn't it a cycle of like almost building the routine of doing that? It also means in friendships, for instance, it's less alien. It feels like a smaller thing. It's not as a big ordeal to really open up to someone and have to catch them up to speed on like everything you've been struggling with over the past 6 months or so on. So I definitely see the fruit of it, and have also seen the fruit of doing it more routinely. And I think just in general in friendships, especially for men, but for women as well, I just can't relate quite as much because I'm a man. But
I am a man.
Like, we should definitely make it a routine thing to open up, but also give kind of opportunities for each other to help each other. Yeah.
How do you do that? Like, i.e., if someone's listening and they're like, let's say they are a guy or they're a girl, but it's just not in the culture of their kind of friendships to ask each other how they're doing, or like, let's say someone is really struggling but doesn't know how to bring it up or whatever. How have you done that, or what would you say?
To be honest, my reflection would be that there's not a magic fix in terms of, well, this is the way to do it. And I think like, environment and context is big. Probably not gonna, I don't go clubbing, but
it's like a prees with 20 people sat around
playing Ring of Fire.
So guys have really not been okay. Like, and if you were to do that, fine. But like, you're probably not gonna get the response you were hoping for of a 2-hour chat.
No.
It's like, oh, all right,
no,
mate.
exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Down it.
Yeah.
I'll take a shot, mate. Shut up.
Yeah. So I do feel like you kind of just, of course that plays a factor, but especially the first time it feels like you've asked for help in a long time, it's quite a big thing. Just got to go for it. And there's some things are more conducive than others. I find, for instance, being outside, going on a long walk with a friend or something, or
not
just
having
like
to make eye contact, just looking
a
ahead.
runs are brilliant.
Oh yeah.
It goes quiet. You can just blame it on the fact that you're out of breath. But like, I think you just got to
all those men that run with Josh when he's quiet, he doesn't know what to say.
Yes.
Yeah, you just outed yourself there.
Yeah.
Your tactics.
Yeah.
But what I think is quite interesting, because you were talking about being an achiever and in that almost wanting to provide and be self-sufficient. But Rach, you're also kind of that way inclined to be an achiever, but you don't find it difficult to ask for help. So, like, what do you think's the difference? I wonder if it's something about gender.
Yeah.
Being a man, feeling like you gotta provide.
Interesting, Saif.
Just bringing in some insight.
I mean, it's hard, isn't it? To like, I guess all these things are just guesses of. Ultimately, it's just also personality and the way that different people are wired. I think I do. Yeah, it's interesting because I do think, like you say, from a work perspective, when I'm asking for help, I actually think deep down it's low-key out of a panic of not doing it like really well. Like, that is it. Because if I wasn't so fussed, I would just do it like more half-heartedly. But it's because, like, I think, like you said, I know that there's people around me that I can access like a higher level of skill and therefore like improve something. And then obviously I learn it and don't have to ask again. But that said, like, I do actually think in the last year with my work where I felt really out of my depth, I have actually really overthought asking for help a lot of the time, because ultimately, like you say, you just don't want to be a burden to other people. And at times with that, all I've had to do is hear it out of those people's mouths, like, actually, no, you can ask for help. And that's almost released me to then be like, okay, so like,
brilliant.
Yeah, like, brilliant.
Let me rinse
you then. No, but like legit, sometimes it's just about saying to someone like, I am really quite struggling with this thing. Is it okay for me to ask you for help? And hearing them going, absolutely, you're then like, oh, brilliant, I now can, like, and that takes that burden off. I think from like a personal perspective, yeah, I think again, it's just my personality. I'm a very like open person, so I find it quite easy to. I'm a big external processor. Like, I actually think sometimes there's probably moments where it's like I actually just need to internalize some stuff. So I don't know. That didn't really answer your question.
From Josh there.
That didn't really answer in terms of being an
It
achiever.
did.
But I think for me, it's just about how I'm wired. So I think that's why it's more interesting to hear from like someone like Josh who maybe isn't in the same way, because then it's like, okay, how do you do that? But I think my almost like default is to just be trusting and open and honest with people, where it's like, oh, I just want to share because I kind of think that I can learn a lot from other people. And it's not to say that you don't think that, but that's my default.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting 'cause, I mean, obviously being an achiever isn't the only part of your personality.
Yeah.
So there'll be other parts of your personality that come in, but
exactly.
almost underneath it all, in different ways, the achiever thing is kind of manifesting itself, and it's what's driving either asking for help or not asking for help.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting.
Yeah,
I feel like
it
I
is.
feel like I'm
It
getting
really
into a bit of
is.
psychology
If anyone
now.
from Enneagram wants to get in contact, do let us know.
Help us
This
out
video,
here.
this podcast is
Yeah.
sponsored by
The
Enneagram.
Enneagram Institute.
But yeah. Okay, well, to wrap up, what were we going to ask Josh to wrap
We're
up?
going to ask, what would you... Oh, I've said that wrong. What would be your encouragement to someone who's struggling to ask for help? Great question.
Good question.
I mean, I feel like you've already said...
Yeah,
Yeah.
or even
bits.
some of what you were saying earlier around.
Yeah. So I think, well, I can share what's helped me the most, and that was something my counsellor said to me, which was, so it's about that provision thing and feeling like you want to provide. I think sometimes that can be something which stops people asking for help because they want to provide rather than be a burden. And my counsellor said to me, which is really interesting, was like, why don't you flip it in your head and think about asking for help as providing an opportunity for other people to experience what, brings everyone joy, i.e. helping each other. And that has been really helpful for me, because ultimately now, instead of thinking when I ask for help I'm burdening someone, I actually realise that I'm giving them an opportunity to do what I like doing, which is helping. And I think you then flip it in your head as well and go, well, hey, if I don't do that, it means I'm only taking opportunities to help and not providing any. And that's not fair nor sustainable, because I think everyone, ultimately, regardless of which one they prefer to do, wants to feel like they can help others and also that they should be able to receive help. So that was a big thing for me, where it was like, yeah, I just need to switch it in my head in terms of like providing an opportunity as opposed to burdening.
Something else I'd add is what you were saying earlier, Rach, about actually hearing from the other person, like them saying to you, yeah, it's fine for you to ask me for help. And even just naming within your request for help, I really don't want to be a burden and I'm sorry if I am, or maybe not saying sorry, but just almost naming the fact that I kind of don't want to ask you for help, but here I am.
Yeah.
And just hearing out of their mouth, you are not a burden, I want to help you, whatever they say, that just gives you some peace of mind that actually, yeah, I'm not. Because I think, especially maybe work-wise, I think friendship-wise, that can come quite naturally, where people are like, oh, I'm so glad you've told me this or whatever. But even just, I think, hearing from the other person, yeah, it's fine for you to ask me, just brings a bit of relief about asking in the future, doesn't it?
Definitely. I agree,
Anything
mate.
you'd add?
I think I would just say, like Josh said earlier, I think sometimes the temptation to not ask for help comes out of that place of thinking, what benefit would it have for me to share how I'm feeling with this person? I'm thinking more from the aspect of if you're struggling mentally or there's something that's just been like burdening your mind, and the reality is often you've been thinking it through over and over and over again, and you're like, there's nothing new that someone could help me with or tell me. But as cliche as it is, when you externally process or speak out something that you're feeling and you let someone else into it, even if they can provide absolutely no solution other than just to listen, it is incredibly relieving. So it's like, I guess I would just encourage anyone listening, again, you probably hear it all the time, like, share how you're feeling, but there's never been a time where I've shared how I've been feeling or where I've been struggling and felt even worse after, or like have continually felt worse. Do you know what I mean?
It's not always about solving problems, is it? Or coming up with
Mm.
solutions.
Sometimes it's just about being heard and
Do you know what? A problem shared is a problem halved.
inviting
Amen.
someone in. So I would just really encourage anyone to do that.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Come on, man.
Come on.
Come on.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay. Should we wrap it up there?
Let's wrap it up.
Josh, how was your podcast experience?
It was good. My
Josh-
heart
Josh-
was racing at the start.
Josh has low-key felt quite nervous about doing that.
No, you thought
Your face is like,
Because he sat between two pros.
but thank you for being on the podcast today,
Thanks for
Josh.
having me.
You weren't too exposing.
Oh.
No, in
I didn't know
terms
you were
of,
gonna say that.
I mean, he's
You
my
said you weren't
brother.
too
He could-
annoying.
Annoying.
Yes.
And we'll see you in our next episode, guys. Have a great week.
Bye.
Ta-ra.
Peace out.